What if the next level of growth didn't require you to push harder, but to become more embodied in who you are? Today, I'm excited to welcome Rahaf to Voices of Impact for a powerful conversation about embodied leadership, sustainable growth, sales, identity, and creating success without abandoning yourself in the process. So, Rahaf is a high ticket sales coach, entrepreneur, podcast host, and PhD student. So, very multifaceted, who helps women create more freedom, income, and confidence through sales. Before building her business, she experienced her own journey of questioning what success was supposed to look like and ultimately choosing a path that gave her more freedom, self expression, and alignment. Today, as the founder of the Revenue Room, she helps women master the psychology and energetics of sales, break into remote high ticket sales, and build careers and businesses that allow them to actually enjoy the lives they're creating. What makes her approach especially interesting is the intersection of sales and psychology, NLP, embodiment and nervous system regulation, which is very important because we're so used to like the pressure type of sales, right? So this is a very different one. It's very authentic. So, because sometimes the next level business growth isn't about another strategy, it's about who you have to become to hold it. Today, we're going to talk about why forcing growth can eventually become a ceiling, how embodiment and nervous system capacity influence sales and leadership, and moving from proving yourself to trusting yourself. Rahaf, welcome to Voices of Impact. So honored to have you on the show.
Hi, I'm really happy to be here.
Amazing. So let's get started into, your journey has been shaped by navigating different cultures and environments. So, how's that experience influenced the way you see ambition, belonging, and finding your own voice?
Man, where do we even start with that? Well, just a little bit of background. So, being an immigrant to this country, I actually moved to this country when I was 3. So, I was around so many different types of cultures. I was raised in a collectivistic household, and I was also in schools that had individualistic lifestyles. So, I was constantly in this conflict of how should I be? Where do I belong? How do I act? And then from there, after I got my master's in psychology, I started teaching psychology at the graduate level, and I taught multicultural counseling, helping students become multiculturally competent therapists. So it helped me understand different types of people and how they interact, and at the fundamental core of what it means to communicate. So all of that passion, all of that drive is actually what led me to create Revenue Room, because at the end of the day, sales is communication. It's how do we interact with people? How do we get to the core of decision making and influence through alignment? So it's just been so beautiful to be able to take all of my lived experience, all of my academic learnings, and to build something around my alignment and how I truly want to help people instead of putting myself in this box that's comfortable, that is kind of close. It honestly felt like I was trying to put this square peg in this circle hole. I'm like, it's not really fitting. So I'm so grateful that I've been able to create Revenue Room and this program, and to be able to work with humans and help them on their sales journey too.
Yeah, amazing. Awesome. So, yes, I just love how you talked about alignment because, a lot of these days, we've seen that people are building businesses that it feels like it's nice on the external side, right? And you have like the revenue and all of that. But internally, they're like, hey, this is not who I am. This is not what I value. And you have to like rebrand it and everything. And from the start, you were just very intentional about, yeah, this is who I am. And it's alignment that matters most to me. And you built a business and a life around that, which I know is the toughest part because when I talk to a lot of 7 to 9 figures, like these people are millionaires and they still have the struggle. And they're like, yeah, like I just don't feel fulfilled. I have everything, but there's that internal conflict, right? So I think where we've come from, especially I know you talked about the immigrant journey, and my parents have also been that. We've taught different values from them. I learned different things, and that makes a huge difference. My life was the other direction. I didn't learn that from my life, but I had to learn the long other way, and I learned from other people and more feminine women. And I liked how you said sales because that's a huge thing in business, right? And most people, even now, I've have conversations about, hey, let's use ads, let's do this, and let's pay for this. And it's very like scarcity mindset. But the fact that you're saying sales is connection, really building that trust and connecting with people is most authentic, right? And it's aligned to who you are as a person. So thank you for sharing that. And yeah, you clearly have a strong drive to create and achieve, right? So how have you learned to hold ambition without allowing ambition to become the thing that controls you, right? So how are you balancing that? Hey, I can be like that woman that's high achieving and ambitious, but at the same time have that like feminine leadership.
I mean, I struggled with that balance actually for so long. And it wasn't until I found my coach and she helped me with congruency and alignment and being able to have that ambitious part of me, because I'm a Libra. I'm also a generator. Like my human design is a generator. So I'm really good at just going, going, going. Like I just go. Like I will go for 14, 16 hours at a time and I will just be in a flow state. I have very strong ambition. And the other side of that coin is moving faster than where I am in this moment. So I constantly have to remind myself, like, be where you are, be where you are. Like look down, look at my feet and remember who I'm serving. Because in the very beginning of my business, I wanted to move so fast and I wanted to also serve who was ahead of me. And sometimes when you're just in this place where you're just moving, you're like, wait, I'm looking here instead of looking here. Who's 5 steps behind me instead of 5 steps in front of me? And that was probably one of the biggest lessons that I've learned is let it be easy, almost like let it be boring, not even boring, just let it be that it doesn't have to be crazy all the time. Like let it feel easy. And I think so many of us just have a hard time with letting safe, like finding that safety and ease. And it's a lot of reprogramming that it's safe to move slow. It's safe to be in your feminine energy. It's safe to build from this place because there's a lot of, there's a battle that goes on a lot of like, oh, I should be going, I should be going, I should be doing this. It's like, no, I can move faster when I'm out skateboarding, when I'm slowing down, when I'm having dinner with my partner and we leave our phone in another room, when we're going on our morning walk. So starting to build evidence for that story that ambition can also be from this place of feminine energy. And if I want to, I can also go 14 hours, 16 hours a day, just building because I want to. And that's also part of my life's design. So a lot of that was rewiring myself to feel like it's okay to work hard and also rest hard as long as my internal being doesn't feel that scarcity of like, oh, I should be doing this. It's like, no, I want to be doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm literally like you. I'm actually an Aries. So I think that makes more sense of why I'm just this like this leadership ambition. I'm a huge go-getter, but just like you, I can completely resonate with what you're saying because even now I could just keep going and my friends always have to remind me to slow down. And I literally forget to slow down and I keep doing that, but I think it comes under practice like you said. For so many years of like I was always in the hustle and grind and I ended up burning out and I switched into the feminine leadership. And a lot of times I was like, I could either be this or that, right? I could either be like this ambition, masculine energy or this feminine. And I didn't realize like you could be both, right? And you don't have to like fit into a box. And I just also shifted my business model. Like, yes, things can be easy. You can slow down and still be ambitious. And you kind of attract opportunities that way, like just kind of have that abundance mindset. And yeah, it's just really about shifting the paradigm because we're so used to the noise and the societal conditioning. Like ambition is you really have to really hustle and grind all the time. But in this case, like I love how you really introduce a different leadership sense that you can embody yourself and who you are and your essence and your personality and attract the right, whatever it's clients or the people and everything that you want, right? So, and I appreciate you saying that you can actually do both, right? And that's what true feminine, embodied feminine leadership truly is. So, yeah, absolutely. And what has been one of the biggest moments? So going back into where this all started from, because I think that's the major thing here, is we talk about the internal first that allows the external to catch up. What are the biggest moments where something didn't work out the way you wanted it, and what did that experience teach you about trusting yourself and reinventing? And especially when we talk about embodied leadership, that we're able to figure out the internal, but say the external doesn't show up the way we wanted it to. So yeah, what were the lessons you learned?
Yeah. Well, first off, I love that you said you're an Aries because my moon is Aries.
Yeah.
So that makes sense having that fire. But yeah, to answer your question, I mean, I can think of a couple examples. I guess the biggest one that comes to mind is, in the beginning of building a business, it's really getting that lead flow. Like, okay, I need that lead flow. I got to figure out how to get clients. And, I've done so many different strategies in the past. My biggest one was like the masterclass, like bringing people into a masterclass, warming them up, having that type of funnel. And then of course there's content, but you reach this point where like, I need that consistency. And I was introduced to this program that was like, yeah, I mean, you just need to have some ads and build these ads and do that. And it was run by men. And, they were great. It was great, but it was just not aligned. And I didn't even realize how much it not aligned because they wrote my copy for me. And I was putting in like $5,000, $6,000 a month on these ads. And it felt off. It felt off. Something felt really off. And I couldn't quite figure out what was going on. I was like, maybe it's supposed to feel this way. Maybe that's just how it is. And then I realized like, this isn't my voice. Something doesn't feel right. Well, there was a problem with the offer. So the offer was the problem. So we were putting these ads on a broken offer, and it was attracting in unaligned clients.
Yeah.
So the only 3 clients that it brought in, they were severely unaligned. And it actually was one of the biggest blessings because it made me realize it was one of the biggest shifts that I actually made in my business, because it had been right when Revenue Room first launched. And the original avatar was for the coach, the offer owner that wanted to learn more about sales, to help her with sales. But that was when I realized, wait, I'm speaking to somebody that I'm not even that person yet. So that was that first breakthrough. And the second breakthrough was, wait, this isn't even the avatar that I'm resonating with the most. So that's what helped me shift from speaking to coaches to speaking to the average woman who wants to get out of her 9 to 5 and learn sales and build a life around her work, but as a sales rep instead of as a business owner. So that was just one of the biggest breakthroughs I had from something that was just so deep. I mean, I was deep in the trenches. I was just like looking around me. I was like, please, please, please just show me what my next step is. And it was just one of those things that I'm like, wow, sometimes if it feels that bad, something really must be off. And it's hard to know what that line is. But coming back to my offer and who I really want to serve and what feels easy and looking this way instead of this way led to the biggest expansion of Revenue Room. And now I'm able to serve women that I was literally who they were. And it just feels so much better now.
Yeah. Amazing. I just love how you just took that leap of faith, and everything you said, I think everyone can resonate. And when I was like that, yeah, they wrote the copy for me, and they were just like literally, even now, like I was about to put money in ads, and I was like, what is this? Like, that's not me. Is this really me? And every single person, you know how many coaches I invested in that was like, do this messaging, do this, I literally invested in an automation tool on LinkedIn because I was a career coach and executive coach. And I would actually invest tons of money, do all of that. And it was just always misaligned. And it's, to your point, I think it's very important to have the right mentor, because that made a difference for me as someone who really aligned with me. So that's something that I want to put out there, is be very intentional about who you're choosing as in anyone, your clients or your partner or your business mentor. Because he actually saw that. I told him the things are just not aligned. And he was like, you know what, Vina, start this podcast, right? And this is where we're here today. Start this podcast. And really, this is your gift, right? This is your zone of genius. And this is going to be, you don't need to do like any kind of marketing, right? You are the marketing. It's your personality, it's your energy. And it just completely shifted into that feminine energy. Like you said, I just never did any ads, but I wanted to. And I was like, but also that came from a place of scarcity. So you have to do the internal work first. And that was the nervous system regulation. And I was like, why do I need the money? Right. And he was like, it's not about needing. Shift that money mindset into wealth, right? So you want to deeply serve your people, the money will follow. And I was like, okay, that makes sense, right? And that's what I'm good at. So I truly connect with people through my podcast. And he said, start this and interview people and get to know them. And actually, like, there's some timeless wisdom and shared experiences, right? This is what makes the impact on people. And I was like very nervous to start this. And I was like, I don't know if I can be a host. And I had all this like self-doubt. And here I am today, 56 episodes in, and has reached tremendous amount of global reach. And every person has come out saying, I just really felt seen, right? I don't think any kind of ad or any funnel would have done this. I've struggled a lot, so I understand where you're coming from. So I think the message is here, like we're so focused on our mind, which is like external validation from noise and people and the trends. Like, this is what I'm supposed to do. But we want to listen to what our heart says and our intuition and be like, what do I truly want? What's my zone of genius? What is my gift? And for me, it was connection. It wasn't about just, hey, let's do AI and automations. Because every single person that I come across is always, like you said, the men. It's all about AI automation. How can I like just pitch an offer? For me, it was more the feminine side, get creative. And that's why I tell people, like, if you don't want to start a podcast, at least try to guest on them. I help people with speaking opportunities as well. So yeah, it's all about self-trust and alignment. And when you're in your alignment, you see that everything else that comes to you and you magnetize it is also in alignment. And I love what you said before this. When you're truly in the flow, in alignment, you can actually be ambitious and work so many hours, but not in a way that you're burnt out. You're actually expansive, right? So, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. Another important question, we talk about capacity nervous system regulation. So, what happens when obviously you and I both have quantum leaped, right? So, we understand this because we are experiencing it at the moment. But for someone who's like, what is quantum leaping? What does this all mean? What happens when your business starts expanding faster than your nervous system or identity has the capacity to hold, right? That's when there's that friction. They're like, oh my God, we tend to panic. So, how would you help someone regulate?
Well, I'm in the middle of a huge quantum leap right now.
Likewise.
And so speaking very fresh, because I think that's where like the real magic is like what I'm really experiencing right now is, it's like the external and the internal. It's like sometimes we do have our head down and we're just in creation mode without, necessarily having to burn out, but just in creation mode and having fun and being in flow and creating and moving, moving, moving. And then we forget to do the internal work. So the external is moving faster than the internal. And we look up and we're like, wait, there's this mismatch, there's this imbalance. And it's so important to take that moment and pause and just remember, okay, wait, what's that foundational stuff that we used to do in the beginning? Like reminding myself, okay, during the full moon, when I would script, when I would have my full moon rituals, when I would wake up in the morning and write down my gratitude, when I would, all these things that made me magnetic, that made me just connect to things. And you forget that when you're so much in, it's like the flowy of like the divine masculine, and to come back to that feminine, to really have that integration, you really got to pause and take a step back and I'm reminding myself like, hey, this is also productive. This needs to happen in order to reach this next level, because it's addicting when you're in that flow and you move fast, but you hit this point where you can't move anymore because the nervous system cannot hold the capacity for the external until you go back and you come inside and you get the nervous system on board with the identity. So that's exactly where I am right now. I did a full revamp of all the copy, everything on all my landing pages, redid my workbook, redid my curriculum, and it feels more me than it ever has before. And then I had this moment this week where I was like, okay, let's pause. Are we still doing our gratitude? Are we still doing our affirmations? Are we still scripting? So reminding myself to go back to that, writing my 3 wins at the end of the night to remind myself that I'm ahead. So I think the biggest piece of wisdom I have there is to just remember the ground zero things that worked, because those don't expire. They're needed for every quantum leap. Otherwise, there will be this moment of friction that you cannot break through that barrier to the other side until you deal with whatever shadow work is coming up that's inevitable to make it to the other side.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. Like, it's really on point. And when you say that you're in the middle, I actually exactly where I am, because it's literally that, right? Where when you're in flow, and this has been me for the past 4 months, I just kept going. And then I was like, wait a minute, I like the expansion, but I really need to slow down. So actually I'm taking a week off in 2 weeks. And I'm just like, you know what? It's so exciting, but at the same time, like, you also are hit with some challenges at the same time. And sometimes it affects your cycles and your health and all of that. And you have to go back and be like, wait a minute, like, I need to just step back, because sometimes, during this quantum leap, like, to your point, your internal's faster than the external. And you're just like, because that happens when my external still hasn't shown up the results. I'm just like, I'm doing something wrong. Like, this is not it. Like, oh my God, I go back to my old identity. And sometimes I'm like, wait a minute, why am I going back here? Because we're so focused. And sometimes I tend to forget. Like, okay, well, the internal moves fast, the external is lagging, right? And I need to be patient with myself and give myself grace. And I love when you said, like, celebrate the wins and the gratitude. That's very important. And I even, in my wins channel, I was telling you about my wins for my team and for my Sovereign Rise sisterhood. We always have a wins, even if it's like a small thing. And one sister, she was literally like, hey, Vina, I don't know if this is a big win, but I just kind of got, like, she's a very productive woman as well. And she was like, I was very productive. Like she got to some sleep today, got some rest. And I was like, that is a big win, right? And I don't want anyone to think it's like a small or big, like, it's a win, right? As long as you're getting some rest. And we never take that into consideration. And I was like, even for me, like, that's just part of it. And I loved how you said the divine masculine, divine feminine. And for me, like, when it comes to the external, like, we tend to just always look at it logically. But in reality, internally, we call it spiritually, whatever, that's still moving. And I believe in the divine, and the divine is always, protecting us. There is that timing. We just have to let go of timing and when and how, and it will happen. And to your point, and the message of this is to be in the present moment, right? And to enjoy it. So I love how you and I are connected on Instagram. We just kind of see how we're just in the present moment. I've seen with your cat, and I'm just in my zone, in my nature. So those are the small things that, especially women these days who are entrepreneurs, we tend to just forget to do those things. So be in the moment, and we have to believe in ourselves and trust the process that the external will catch up and regulate that nervous system. That is a very key thing. And I tell everyone, my clients and my team, like, we have this app that we always do to regulate that. I have my healing thing going on. Even in my global collective, we do healing circles. So every single month, and that's very key. So I appreciate you sharing this, which is a very important point during this quantum leap, right? So going into sales and expansion, because this is honestly, when I was like hiring people, they've come from a place where they're like, oh, I just got on a call when I was interviewing someone and recruiting. She was like, I'm going to offer, they're about ads and all of that. And I'm like, oh, okay. There's other people are still doing this. And, we're doing it differently, you and I. So what do you believe most people fundamentally misunderstand about selling, especially people who are new to what you and I know this, but for people who are just so new to this feminine led sales, what is the most misunderstood about selling?
I mean, first thing that drops in for me is telling is not selling. And I think so much of sales teaches people how to tell prospects how to feel, what to do, when it's just not going to land. I mean, put aside sales resistance that naturally comes up with anybody because of all the stories that they have, but they need to have that moment with themselves. And the only way that that can happen is by asking the right question. So to really be elite at sales is to know exactly where you're taking somebody by taking them through this path of Easter eggs that you're asking questions to get to where you want to take them. And this is why the framework that I teach it's about the checkpoints. Did I get this checkpoint? Did I get the desired state? Did I get the tangible problem? Did I get the reality? It's not focused on, well, let me just hammer this person with questions. It's also focused on, did I go deep enough here? So it's this blend between not telling them how to feel, especially when pre-handling and handling objections. It's being able to ask the right questions, but also not focusing on the questions like a script. So knowing the depth of where you're taking them. So I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions is, A, focus on a script. No, not anymore. I mean, it's just not how humans really connect. And B, being able to get the answers from them by asking the right questions and know where you're taking them. So it's really rewriting a lot about what people learned about sales. And it's hard when there are all these stories and everything in the space. And that's why it's so mission led for me and you too, Vina. I think that's why we connected so well is, why we love NLP, why we love really getting that commitment, really asking them about the consequence, looking at the other side of the coin. Because in order for someone really to see the contrast of the decision that they're in and to really make a change and to step into a transformation, it's got to come from a place where they're not operating from this baseline and seeing it from here. It's got to come from, well, what if I don't? Then what? What's going to happen a year from now? So I think being able to bring that NLP in is just really changing how sales is, because this old way it's just not going to work in 2026 and onward.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you. Yeah. I mean, I just love when you talked about NLP and just building trust, asking the right questions. And how many people I've come across who are still not asking the right questions and handling that. And it comes to just because they're in their head. Right. And I tell my team this is when you go into a call, yes, I get that you're in your head, but we want to regulate it and go into our body and connect with the person first. And that's the first thing I look at, because obviously in your case, in my case, especially, it's a very relationship led model that we have, that we just really want to connect. And the people that we talk to are 7 to 9 figures, right? They have the money. So they're not here to just come in and I want a program to get revenue, right? End of the day, They're like, I want the freedom. I want the personal freedom, the financial freedom, the time freedom. I don't have the time for my kids and for my family. I'm always in my laptop and all of that. And then I ask them these questions, right? Like you said, what is the opportunity cost if you don't invest in your growth and you're committed and you're just staying small, right? And I always say, and selling is a thing that I had to learn, right? Because I was taught the exact opposite. It was always, and I had some male mentors, which was probably the reason why we are stuck with that. Is like, okay, pressure ask, money, how much did he always keeps asking me, like, which did you close this? Did you close that? Did you get 10K? And I was like, this is not aligned, right? It's not about pressuring. It was more like, if it's not aligned, it's not aligned. If it is, like, they will naturally, it's a byproduct of making them feel seen and heard. And that's very important, right? Building the trust. And one person always, every single person who comes to me within 20 minutes is like, Vina, thank you so much for making me feel understood. And that's the first thing I tell people is with the selling, if they don't feel understood or they don't feel it, you're just out, right? You might get the money, but you might get a refund later, right? At the end of the day, because that's not what they want, right? And don't just focus on the revenue and money. And that's why we're here talking about sustainable business. That's a lesson I learned. In the beginning of my business, I had a lot of revenue, but I became inconsistent because I didn't think of it from that way, right? And to your point, we have to go back into the foundations. And I was like, like you said, you're going to rebuild everything and rebrand. That's exactly what I did. I shifted the whole business model to feminine sales. And now I have a very feminine led team. And literally, we're just kind of connecting with the person in front of us. Like, how can I just add value today? And that's exactly what my sales process is it's not an actual sales call. It's really like, how can I just add value, right? It's an audit. At the end of the day, whether they want to work with me or not, they have a tremendous amount of value. I gave some transformation today. They felt seen and heard. And that makes a whole different sales process so different and very authentic and very you, right? So absolutely. And thank you for sharing the different aspects of what true sales is, right? As a true entrepreneur and to your point, a purpose driven, mission led. So, and also, yeah, and I know we talked about scaling sustainably. So, say you're scaling, how would you say, like when you're building a team and you're scaling sustainably? I know you have a team. How did that go for you? And what advice would you give someone as they're building a team and building it from the feminine lens?
I mean, this is such a deep question because I brought in my partner into my business about a year and 8 months ago because I realized I needed support with the setting. So I look at my values first. I'm like, I value freedom. I value being able to focus in school and to be able to connect and fulfill and do the fulfillment with my clients and my students. So I make decisions from my values. Okay, what do I need? Where do I not feel like I'm getting my values? How can I bring someone in? How can I delegate something that doesn't need me? Anything that's outside of my zone of genius, my brain goes, how can I get support here, but align support here? So it was me and him just building the frameworks, building Revenue Room for the past year and 8 months together. And then a couple months ago was when I started to really start to feel the pressure of, okay, like your dissertation, you've really got to start writing it. Because I'm in the very last part of my PhD program right now, and I'm writing my dissertation on Revenue Room. So it is the most alignment that I have, but my time is spent, we were getting like 60 calls a month booked, and I was taking all of them. And that's not even counting the fulfillment. That's not even counting the DMs. That's not counting all the creation. So I got to this point where I was reaching burnout. I was like, I can't do all this anymore. So I thought to myself, how can I creatively start to build a team right now, even though I'm not at the level of the revenue that I need to have the level of the team that I need? So I created a practicum tier inside Revenue Room so that the star students that stand out to me can get this more hands-on training by taking my actual calls and getting an inside look of my business. So by creatively doing that and still giving them commissions as the byproduct, the focus was the training, and they were helping me taking these calls off my calendar, learning direct mentorship from me and still getting commission. And as like in return, I had my time back. Right. Of course, a lot of it in the beginning went towards the training, getting them there, and it still is. But I looked at my calendar today. I used to have 2 months ago, I had 17 calls a day, just fulfillment, not even counting the 60 calls a month of just the sales. And now my fulfillment calls are down to 5, and they're all stacked on one day. So 6 days a week are completely open. Not a single call 6 days a week. To say that as a business owner is honestly, I can't even believe it, the words coming out of my mouth, because I know that for me, I need to operate from a flow state. My zone of genius, I need to be making the content. I want to bring in aligned students into my program, and it comes from that first touch point of the content. I don't want to do ads right now, maybe someday in the future. And when I do, I want to make sure it's coming from a place of authenticity. So nobody else can make my content for me. And for me, I want to be able to just go to the beach, film, and I can train somebody in the DMs. I could train somebody to triage, to take my calls for me. So we're at this point now where it's like they got that training. They're also in revenue room, and I'm able to have more of that flow and really step into my feminine. Today was honestly the first day I could really feel it. I was
Right.
really in that. I had my slow morning. Girls are taking calls, DMs. So it takes going against the logic, because my partner, he's very logical, very logical. He's a
Right.
Taurus. Feet have to be on the ground. And me, I'm a Libra, like I said. So I'm in the air. I'm like, nope, I'm going to change a million variables at a time, because I know I need to do this for my sanity, for my values, for my freedom, so I can work on my dissertation, skateboard. So it was a lot of variables changed at once. It felt like a lot, but I'm teaching them how to sell from their feminine. So teaching what I'm embodying at the same time is just congruency everywhere. So it was a lot. And it really does take that skill set of having that trust and having that curiosity at all times, and the transformational leadership style that I do have, which I think, not even I think, I know from all the research I've been reading in my doctorate, is it's necessary for a sales manager to have that transformational leadership style, to teach positive psychology, to have celebrations, because with sales, there's so much wind all the time. And if we don't have the skill set of what to do, how to stay grounded when there is a storm, that's what makes or breaks you. So be able to have that skill set as well.
Exactly. Thank you so much for sharing. I think this is really inspiring for everyone who's listening, and for me as well. And I've talked to people who build teams, and it's yeah, like I actually teach people leadership development and team building, and it comes on the same question. Like, I actually did a webinar and we did a poll, and the poll was like, the burnout was a huge thing for teams, right? And they were all burnt out, masculine energy type of culture. And so whatever you're saying is very inspiring. And I know that you and I are kind of in the same place, because I also have a team very similar. And I can relate to all so many calls every single day, because I also have a podcast. I know you're also a host, and then you're doing a PhD. So we have a lot on our plate. But first of all, I'm so glad that you got the support. And you finally were like, hey, I need the support. Because at the time, I also, and so many women, I think we have this like a little bit of like this pride or wound. It comes from that we go in from the wounded feminine to the divine feminine. And yeah, I'm just this independent person, this boss babe. I can take care of it. And I still see women go through this. Like, they're like, I don't need support, thanks. And, and I think takes a level of receiving. And that's also going into, I'm just going a little deeper here, of getting that overcome, right? To have the capacity to hold, but to receive. So for a long time, I couldn't receive a lot of things. I just couldn't feel it. Like you said, you were in your feminine, you finally felt it, until I think the past 4 months, I just was like numb. I couldn't feel, I couldn't receive. I couldn't even ask someone I needed a support to hire. I had like 2 VAs before this, and I was like, team, like, I don't think I can even build a team. I was like that for 4 months ago. So when you're more in your feminine, you have to do the deep work first. And there's a lot of overcoming facing those challenges. So I want to put this out there: when you're going to quantum leap, anything, even if you go to the next level or quantum leap like us, it requires a lot of determination, resilience, like you said, those skills, even not just for a sales manager, but as a CEO. When you're stepping into a new version of yourself, you want to see the bottlenecks, right? It could be you yourself, right? And for me, a lot of people listening, you yourself could be the bottleneck. Like, you're not seeing it from like, hey, can I receive the support, and ask for it, and ask and you shall receive, right? And the universe is always there to support you in some way. So I'm glad you had your partner do that for you. So it took me some time to get to that level. And I can relate to the whole, you're saying that your partner is logical. And yeah, I've had people who are super logical, and I was just like, no, like, this is not aligned. I yes, there's a logical piece, but if you're purpose driven, you have to listen to yourself first and connect with yourself and just go with it and trust the process. And when you do that, you realize, like, I just built a team, which 4 months ago I didn't have any. And I was like, this is very new. All of a sudden, I had a 7-figure business owner come in and he was like, there's a system that works. This is the kind of team. And I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'm going to take the leap of faith and do it. And similarly, it's a very feminine led process and we're just connecting. And it's, to your point, it's not about like team because I have a team, right? It's not from that place, but to reclaim our time. And when you look at it, yeah, training, it takes a lot of energy. You know how many people I've come across who was like, I don't want a team. It's just too much to train them. It's too much of this. And I'm like, yes, it is. But this is a long-term process. You know how many times like you can reclaim, like you can have them do it and just delegate. And you get to be in your zone of genius. It's just like you're in your zone of genius about Revenue Room. I'm in my zone of genius doing this podcast. I just get to connect with people. That's my gift. And Sovereign Rise is my community. We're building very global partnerships. And it's just been an amazing feeling when we really release that old self and be like, hey, release that pride and just be honest with yourself. Like, hey, it's okay as an entrepreneur to ask for support. Every single person I've come across, they ask me, like, anyway, you've been so nice to me. Like, I want to support you. Thank you so much for being a blessing. And I say thanks, right? And I used to be like, I don't know, but now I'm like, yeah, if you want to support me, here you go, all of that. So I really thank you for sharing this story and your experience. This is a game changer for a lot of women because a lot of women I've been talking to, like I said, have conversations every day and they still are themselves or the bottleneck and they think it's the operationals and something else and time. And time is a huge factor. The more you're scaling, whether that's 30K months into 100K months into 200K months, the major challenge that comes through is time. But you have to understand where you're putting your time and is it in your zone of genius and delegate the ones that are not in your zone of genius so you reclaim that time. So thank you so much for sharing this. And also another question for you when you're building your team. Some people that I was coming across have companies where things are unpredictable, they're slow growth and all of that. What would you say to those people? And I know that it comes with resilience, but for CEO, if someone was a CEO right now, what would you tell them right now during these times of slow growth? And you're just like, your heart's saying one thing, mind is saying something else. Am I in the right place? Am I doing this correctly? What would you say to them?
Hold the energy of, anytime there's a slow point in business, it's like, oh, it's just this one person or there's just these 2 people or 3 people or whatever it is. It's like the small amount of people versus this overflow. Treat that small amount of people as the overflow. Give it the same energy that you would operate from that same baseline. Because at the end of the day, it's all portals of abundance. Whether it's gratitude, whether it's compliments, whether it's money, whether it's whatever it is, it's all being able to receive and to be grateful for this one thing. And receiving this one thing is what brings in more and brings in more and brings in more. So even when things feel slow, look at where things are going well.
Right.
And let that energy create the guidance and the path to the next thing and the next thing. Because it's not this snap your fingers, now business is flowing really fast. It takes being able to just slowly put yourself in that frequency little by little and just constantly look at what's working. Where are the wins? Where are the gratitude? Which is why we talk about the frequency of gratitude and how important it is for the morale of a team. Constantly celebrating, holding the energy. If there's only one person that shows up on a call for, fulfillment, okay, hold the energy like that's a full room because that's how you're going to get to the full room is by constantly holding that space like it is for both people. So I think that's my biggest advice there is just hold that energy no matter what. And then the external will pour in only when the internal feels that first.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you. Yeah. Everyone forgets about that part, right? Is holding the energy and still being like, hey, you know what? Look at the good things, the blessings that are coming in. And when you're quantum leaping, yes, things are going to fall apart. It's happening, like you said, and it doesn't happen overnight. But during those times, you have blessings that like, hey, like, look where I am right now. I went from here to here, right? And in whatever many months, right? And that progress you've made, you've quantum leaped. Give yourself some grace. No one is able to do what you're doing, right? You have the ability to do it. And celebrate that. And you have to like honor those wins. But at the same time, the challenges are going to be there, and that's part of the journey, and that's part of life. And it's a lesson. We take those lessons and like, okay, yeah, sure, it happened. And why did it happen? We have to learn. And at the end of the day, it strengthens you even stronger. It makes you a stronger person and a stronger leader and a stronger CEO, right? Or anyone, a leader, whatever you're working on, an entrepreneur. And that's what entrepreneur is all about. Like, there are going to be times when it's not always linear and consistent, and that's an unpredictable thing. And you have to keep going, even though you might be like, yeah, things are falling apart. That's the next breakthrough. That's what happens. If you look at it logically, some things are like, oh my God, doesn't make sense. But looking at it from another side and another lens, you're like, well, it's a blessing or a lesson. If it's a blessing, celebrate. If it's a lesson, learn from it and make yourself stronger. So absolutely. Thank you so much for this wonderful conversation, Rahaf. And where can people connect with you?
Instagram is where you'll really find me. You can find me on Instagram at Radiant Rahaf, RadiantRahaf, and slide into my DM, say hi to me. I also have a podcast. So if you go to reallyRahaf.com, you'll see all my goodies there. You'll see my podcast. I have a free community for sales girls so they can just start dipping their toes in. It's all about plugging yourself into the frequency. That's what I like to say is like plug yourself into a podcast episode or step into the free community. And then from there, just feel the energy, feel the wins, feel all like the women who are doing this to help show you that it's possible as well. So you'll see my content, everything. There's a full revamp on my page, brand new brand photos. So Instagram's the best place to find me. Every now and then I'll post on Threads, but my skateboarding account is really Rahaf. We did talk about it a lot, but I'm also a sponsored skateboarder. So that's my biggest, like the biggest athlete part of me. My partner is also a skateboarder. So yeah, that's the best way to find me.
Amazing. And obviously everyone loves your energy, and so do I. So yeah, I know the first time we connected, we just vibed because it was the frequency. And I think that's what it is. When you're vibing high and I'm vibing high, the energy matches and there's an energetic match, right? And that's how you meet your people. And the alignment just comes on its own. So absolutely. And everyone please connect with Rahaf. A lot of great stuff on her end. So thank you so much again, Rahaf. And let's go into the fun rapid fire round. Okay, so morning person or night owl?
Night owl, but I love my slow mornings.
Yeah, I'm actually a morning person. I'm up like at 6:30. So yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, literally I'm up ready to go. But yeah, it's also slow. So it depends on what it is. So yeah, amazing. And beach vacation or adventure trip?
Beach vacation.
Yeah, likewise. I haven't been to the beach in a while, so need to go someday. I wish I was like near the beach, but the city and the hustle bustle, I think I'm just past that stage. But yes, amazing. So I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to just ask, but if you weren't doing what you do now, what would you be doing?
Wow. Rapid fire, rapid answer. Skating. I already am. It's just so funny because it's like, when I get asked that question, I'm like, it's everything I'm already doing. I would maybe just be doing, just skating or just writing more, like postdoc research articles on sales and sales management.
Yeah. And I can see you're passionate about sales and skating. And it really shows when you light up, right? And you love what you're doing. So that's amazing. Okay. So what's your guilty pleasure?
My guilty pleasure. Wow. Smelling my dog for an hour every morning in bed.
Oh, well, really? Yeah.
My senior dog. That's why I love my slow mornings. I'll just cuddle with him and I love the way he smells.
Wow, amazing. Awesome. That's awesome to hear. And what's something people would be surprised to learn about you?
That I'm fluent in another language.
What language is that?
Arabic.
Oh, nice. I did not know that. Actually, that surprised me. So that's amazing. Great. So thank you so much for this conversation. And it's a powerful one. And I'm pretty sure it'll make a lot of impact because I liked how we explore the connection between sales and self-worth and embodiment, and then how that leads to freedom. Because we think our next level requires us to work harder and do more and become someone different, but you're actually becoming more of yourself, right? So it comes from a place of self-trust rather than urgency, alignment rather than pressure, and embodiment rather than performance, right? So when we do that, true success looks very different. It's easy, we're in flow, and we're energetic, thriving, and enjoy. And that's deeply connected to the work we're building inside. I'm actually building Sovereign Rise Global Collective. It's a deep system for purpose-driven leaders who want to rise into a more sovereign way of leading, creating, and living. So we're expanding globally through partnerships across Albania, South Africa. We're actually doing a virtual summit soon. UK, and we do co-branded workshops and masterminds, a very similar community. Like we have conversations like this where all the women rise together and the frequency rises. So yeah, when you shift your identity, you change what becomes possible, not just for you, but for the people and movements you lead. So I'll leave you with this. What identity have I outgrown, and what becomes possible when I give myself permission to release it? Right? Because your next level may not require you to become more. It may require you to become more of who you already are. So until next time, this is Voices of Impact. I'm Vina, and I'll see you in the next conversation.
Bye.